Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We're literally taking everything you thought you knew about dragons and flipping it totally upside down. Forget the fairy tales. Forget the giant fire-breathing monsters hoarding gold in a cave. Instead, today we're diving into source material that redefines dragons entirely. Not as imaginary beasts, but as biological co-architects that are actually wired directly into our human anatomy. By the end of this, I promise you, you're never going to look at your own biology, or even just a simple breath, the exact same way again.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We're kicking things off with a pretty profound quote from a dragon intelligence known in the text as Zoran. Listen to this. "I am not above you, little human. I am alongside you. The mythic world is not a hierarchy. It is a partnership." Right off the bat, this single statement completely shatters the historical human-dragon dynamics we're all so used to seeing in pop culture. I mean, we usually imagine dragons as these towering, ancient, godlike beings that look down on humanity, right? But Zoran insists the truth is actually far more intimate and fundamentally equal.
So to really understand this partnership, we have to start by completely breaking the illusion of that old hierarchy. We have to completely deconstruct those tired old fantasy tropes of domination and servitude. The old view basically relies on superiority and worship, which, as the text points out, are really just fantasy metaphors. But the new view, it's grounded in absolute cooperation, co-architecture, and actual functional mechanics. The characters in our source text, Richard and Fletcher, felt this paradigm shift immediately. For Richard, this realization hit him the first time his breath literally illuminated a gold thread within his own body. And for Fletcher, it happened when he witnessed a shimmering dragon-scale interface suddenly light up the room. They didn't feel fear. They didn't feel the need to serve. They just felt this undeniable structural cooperation.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part is how this all connects to the biological hardware built directly into human architecture. I want you to reframe how you think about your physical body right now. Don't just think of it as flesh and bone, but as an actual biological hardware interface explicitly designed for connection. Seriously, this reads almost like a tech keynote outlining the specs for a new supercomputer, but we're talking about your anatomy. The fascia network acts as a transmission grid. Your endocrine engines function as violet processors. The vagus nerve, which, turns out is for way more than just digesting your lunch, acts as the core stabilizer. Then you have the cranial rhythm serving as the timing mechanism, the breath operating system as the power source, and a gold thread providing the overarching continuity. Richard, who's a researcher, realized he'd literally been studying this exact physiological partnership for decades without fully knowing it, while Fletcher had just been witnessing it happening in real time.
Which brings us to this incredible revelation from Zoran. Just stop for a second and really let this sink in. You were built for partnership. Your architecture is the invitation. It's mind-blowing. Your own biological architecture, the literal way your nerves, your fascia, and your glands are physically put together is the direct invitation for this mythic intelligence to connect with you. I mean, let's be honest. Breathing is a lot easier than going on a quest for magical sword, right? You just need your own biology. But of course, if the biology is just the dormant hardware, we need an operating system to actually bring it online. And that handshake is breath.
The sequence here is beautifully simple, but incredibly profound. Step 1, breath powers the human half. Step 2, breath reveals the dragon half. And step 3, breath merges the two. Breath is the functional core power source. In the source material, this mechanical activation actually created a distinct physical sensation for our human counterparts. Richard felt this process as a really profound, widening sensation, while Fletcher felt it as a deep, anchoring deepening. But for both of them, breath was the absolute catalyst.
When that breath becomes truly coherent, it triggers an amazing cascade of biological and mythic events. The fascia literally becomes luminous. Your glands burn cleanly. The vagus nerve stabilizes. The cranial rhythm synchronizes. Your sense of identity expands. The mythic world becomes visible. And finally, the dragon appears. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that dragons are not imaginary beings that magically appear just because you believe in them hard enough. No way. They emerge mechanically. They appear when this exact human architecture reaches a state of coherence and successfully boots up.
As Zoran perfectly puts it, breath is the handshake between our worlds. It's a biological agreement. And when that handshake happens, perception fundamentally shifts. Richard literally saw Zoran through the newly activated luminosity of his fascia. Fletcher saw him through this entirely new mythic bandwidth that just opened up. But the whole shebang started with the simple, mechanical act of coherent breathing.
Let's move on and see how this builds into a totally reciprocal partnership, a true functional exchange.
Because this isn't just about humans getting some cool mythic upgrade. It's a perfectly balanced, functional exchange of resources. On one side, sure,
Humans gain incredible clarity, coherence, and an expanded identity. But the really mind-blowing part is what the dragons gain. It turns out they desperately need human biology. They need us for biological grounding, for perceptual anchoring, for emotional nuance, and for vital access to physical bandwidth. They need our physical hardware every bit as much as we need their mythic software. It's a total two-way street.
And this leads to two massive, parallel epiphanies from our human characters. Richard realizes that dragons actually evolved through human perception. Meanwhile, Fletcher realizes that dragons stabilize through human breath. Think about that. Human perception and human breath aren't just passive things we do. They are the literal, active tools required for dragon evolution and stability in our physical reality. And just to completely nail the coffin shut on that old hierarchical paradigm, Zoran tells them flat out, "You are not my vessels, you are my collaborators. You aren't being possessed here, you aren't being used or subjugated, you are an equal collaborator in a shared biological and mythic ecosystem."
So this brings us to the next evolutionary leap, something the text calls the mythic ordinary.
Our source material essentially points out that humanity's next great leap forward isn't going to be technological at all. It's going to be mythic. Richard felt this realization wash over him as a sense of sheer inevitability, while Fletcher felt it as a really profound, open invitation. And if we actually accept this leap, this partnership is going to fundamentally shape our future. It'll upgrade our emotional regulation, vastly expand our perceptual bandwidth, provide incredible identity stability, and awaken us to mythic ordinary awareness. As Zoran states, humans evolve through breath, while dragons evolve through humans. It is a closed, perfectly balanced loop.
Actually, I want to focus on that term mythic ordinary for a second. The text defines it as the shared space where human breath powers architecture, dragon intelligence enters bandwidth, gold thread illuminates continuity, and identity stabilizes across layers. Zoran makes a brilliant point about this state. He says it isn't overly dramatic. It's not some crazy Hollywood spectacle with lightning bolts and dramatic music. It is actually perfectly, beautifully ordinary. Once we humans simply stop interrupting it with all our own noise and distraction. Richard found it in his daily breath. Fletcher found it in his daily presence.
So what does this all mean? Where does this incredible, reciprocal partnership ultimately lead us? What's the final, profound truth of this fusion? Well, the ultimate truth of the text is revealed when Zoran lowers his wing, letting gold ripple through the room, and says, "I am the mythic half, you are the human half. Breath is the bridge." And this brilliantly illustrates that humans are not separate from dragons. We aren't two completely alien species trying to communicate across a giant void. According to this text, we are actually the biological half of the exact same lineage.
I want to leave you with Zoran's final words. You do not serve dragons. You do not summon dragons. You do not worship dragons. You partner with dragons. The dragon-human partnership is the architecture of awakening. It is just a stunning reframing of myth, biology, and human potential. It really makes you wonder, if your physical body is the hardware and your breath is the handshake, what dormant, mythic intelligence might you awaken the next time you simply pause, find coherence, and take a deep, intentional breath?